It was a county fire department helicopter that first spotted the victim's car over a cliff on Angeles Crest Highway above La Cañada. 20-year-old Cindy Lee Hudspeth died by strangulation. Miss Hudspeth's nude body was found stuffed in the car's trunk. There were marks on her neck and chest, that's the word from the coroner's office, lending just a little more credence to the contention that the tall, attractive girl was the Hillside Strangler's victim.
We are saying that she is a Strangler victim, yes.
Somebody, one killer or a team, has been murdering young girls. Lots of them.
The other victims were found nude on hillsides, also in the northern part of Los Angeles County. They ranged in age from 12 to 28.
Darkness manifests however it can, in whatever way it can.
Big fucking deal, so I killed a couple of cunts. It's no fucking big deal.
Killed four. Not one in a couple. How did you kill them?
Strangle them all. It's the easiest way to go.
What's the attitude of this community today?
It's very tense, it's very nervous. It just scares me. I'm afraid to go anywhere alone.
The places where they found the bodies were our backyard.
What were her last moments like? They brutally killed these women.
2,081 clues have been reported to the task force. All of them are investigated as quickly as they possibly can be.
We don't think that enough is being done and fast enough.
It was a collective trauma broadcast into people's living rooms.
No matter what the situation is, you fight for your life.
Of Los Angeles. Our first stop, Hollywood.
Suddenly, the film studios that had always seemed bigger than life were right there.
Star-studded, isn't it? It's incredible, isn't it?
It was in the music, it was on television, and people believed it.
So beautiful out. This could only happen in LA.
They're hearing all this stuff, they're seeing these things. It'll be great. My life will be just like paradise.
Come to LA. LA will surprise you.
Well, with the dreamers come the predators. Sharks go where the food is.
Nobody's worth it out there. It's just a fucked up world. I want to kill those broads.
This was the highlight of, the discos and the private nightclubs. After nightclubs would close, men would drive down Sunset Boulevard. There was 50, 60 girls working on one corner. the girls on the street. Came in contact with everything and all the lowlifes, that's for sure. So I went out on the streets and interviewed many of them.
Lois Lee, a sociologist who works with prostitutes in the Hollywood area.
Because of the adversity, people who didn't care about prostitutes, the way law enforcement treated them. I met girls on the street and ended up meeting Yolanda Washington. Yolanda was a very pretty little black girl who was working to support her daughter.
Yolanda came to LA to be a model. And this is what happens so often. People come to a place like Los Angeles and they try to make it and they find themselves just scraping to survive. And she basically was forced into survival type sex work in Hollywood.
Friends called me up one day and said, remember that girl you met on the streets with us? And I go, well, which one was that? And she says, the black girl, and it was Yolanda. And I said, yeah. And she said, she's dead. Getting killed was an occupational hazard.
She was 19 years old. She was a sex worker. She was found posed. She was naked. She'd been strangled to death. And she was found on Forest Lawn right near Warner Brothers Studios.
I talked to the police and I took them out to introduce them to the girls because the girls on the street, they had information. And LAPD Homicide just snubbed them. They said to me, what do you think? The whores are going to solve this murder investigation? Nobody really cared. At the time she died, I don't even know if there was an investigation.
It's the belief that Yolanda was working under the control of a pimp. In the 70s, there were sex workers being murdered all over Los Angeles.
Everybody kind of turned a blind eye. Prostitutes were seen as they're only hurting themselves, so who cares? That was the attitude.
Predators can single you out from the herd, separate you, and you're gone before anyone even misses you.
I'd only been in homicide a year and a half. I can't tell you the exact numbers per year, but we worked a number of the homicides in Los Angeles County. Nothing really surprises you after a while.
Trick or treat!
I got a call at home, said that they had a case, a dead young female, nude, laying in a front yard. The witness who lived there, he knew that there were a number of kids that would walk out going to school, so he covered the body with a tarp. The way the crime scene was laid out, she was laying in a bed of like ice plant. Whoever placed her there picked out that spot for whatever reason, which I couldn't understand. We processed the scene. She'd been strangled. You could see ligatures on her ankles. We canvassed the neighborhood, no evidence, no witnesses. Homicides were common. We had 400 or 500 a year, which is more than one a day. It was just another young lady that was murdered and dumped. But before we get our victim identified, Glendale Police Department calls us and say they've got a case where a young female was dumped nude about 7-8 miles away from ours.
The victim was Lisa Caston. She was a 21-year-old waitress and dancer working with a troupe called LA Knockers. She was last seen leaving her place of work on Hollywood Boulevard. Lisa was found nude with very distinctive ligature marks at the side of the road by the Chevy Chase Country Club in Glendale.
The first victim was still unidentified and in the coroner's office. He went to the Lisa Caston autopsy.
We had the coroner pull both bodies out, put them side by side, and as soon as you looked at them, there was no doubt. They had the exact same ligature marks on the throat, on the wrists, and on the ankles. Looks like they came out of a Xerox machine. At that point, we knew we were looking for individual responsible for both murders. Whoever killed Caston killed our Jane Doe. One of the first things we did is we looked for other body dumps that may be similar to ours. We found the Yolanda Washington case that was over off Forest Lawn Drive. She had been manually strangled, so we didn't connect that case to ours immediately. We didn't have a starting point, so our goal was try to identify our Jane Doe. She had been laid in this plant material. A number of ants and other insects had bitten her. So we had one of our staff artists come in and draw a picture of her in an attempt to get her identified. As a result, we started receiving numerous calls about our victim being possibly the name of Judy. No last name, Judy. That Judy hung out on Hollywood Boulevard. So we went down there trying to find somebody that knew her.
Hollywood is not what most people think of it, or as it's portrayed in movies. We were talking to people that, with no names, prostitutes, male and female, street people.
A lot of these girls came from such terrible families. Parents didn't care where they were. Some of them didn't even know that their child, was prostituting. It was very, very sad.
One of the kids we talked to said she lives with her mother and father in a small hotel off of Hollywood Boulevard. So we went down to that apartment, knocked on the door. Is your daughter home? No. Have you seen her recently? And she said no, because she runs away all the time. She said the last time she saw her, she was walking on the other side of Hollywood Boulevard, and we waved to each other. We positively ID'd our Jane Doe as Judy Miller.
She was 15 years old. She was a runaway, and at 15, there's not a whole lot you can do for a living. She was engaged in sex work.
She wasn't in the true sense of a prostitute. She would spend the night with somebody if they provide them a room and a meal. It was a survival instinct.
When prostitutes were killed, there wasn't any coverage because the news responds to the appetite of the American people. I just don't think anybody cared.
Once we got Jane Doe identified as Judy Miller, then one of the things we were trying to do is to see if we could connect Judy with Lisa Caston. One was a runaway, and one was working at a restaurant. No connection, other than the fact that both of them lived in the Hollywood area. During that time period, Hollywood Boulevard was overrun with young people that were runaways from all over the United States. The kids down there, they didn't know what day it was.
I
been living in Los Angeles since 1975. I would cut school and take the bus up to Hollywood Boulevard. The reason all of the people in the punk scene were living there was because it was the only thing we could afford. We were all living within blocks of each other.
That microphone is punk.
It just became like a punk rock neighborhood. The punk scene was very close-knit. Like a club or a cult of people together. We were wild, crazy young people that were out all night. Normally, it wouldn't occur to anybody to walk home in a group. But our friend, Jane, had been missing, and everybody was terrified.
Highway worker discovered this body.
28-year-old Jane King.
Described by her mother as a free spirit.
And anyone who would do a thing like that, it had to be something awfully terribly wrong with them.
This photo is always on our mantle. I mean, look at those shoes, very 70s. I love the platform. Very kind of Stevie Nicks, long skirt. Yeah. From what I know from all the letters I've read, Jane was a free spirit, very creative, taking voice lessons and acting classes. When you look at these pictures and you look at her smiling, I would like to think that I myself haven't lost the whimsy and the magic that I think Jane had. But these photos of Jane are all we have.
During the time that we're investigating Caston and Miller, we started picking up on this series of cases from LAPD and from Glendale.
Police had their first hard leads. A 28-year-old woman, and then 3 girls.
Series of crimes committed in the Los Angeles area.
A baffled Los Angeles Police Department announced
said they were beefing up their investigative forces.
4 young ladies went missing in a very short period of time. It's obvious that a series is in progress. The killer is still out there looking for victims. On November 9th, there was Jane King. On November 13th, there was Dolores Cepeda and Sonia Johnson. And then on the 19th, we've got Christina Weckler. We've got all these bodies showing up.
The body of 28-year-old Jane King was found close to the Los Feliz off-ramp of the Interstate 5 freeway.
The MO was so much alike, from Jane King to Christina Weckler. Nude, dumped, ligature strangulation. And then we had Dolores Cepeda and Sonia Johnson. They're 12 and 14.
We had no witnesses. We had no physical evidence. All we had was the nude, raped bodies of these two young girls on a hillside.
We had school children lost something so insidious.
They had been at Eagle Rock Plaza shopping, because that's what girls do, and they were last seen kind of leaning into a car, talking to someone in a car.
I have no words to describe how disgusting it was. Those poor little girls.
The adult victims, it was tragic and bad enough, but these are young children. And that, I think, upped the ante for everybody.
There is murder, bloody and foul, in the otherwise peaceful area around Glendale, California.
There's a killer loose in the Los Angeles area. There may be more than one, raping and strangling young women.
We've had 6 bodies. The media went crazy over it.
The search for the Hillside Strangler continues. Okay.
And that's when the name the Hillside Strangler was coined by the media. So it became the most publicized case at that point, I think, in Los Angeles history.
Stand by, here we go.
7, 2, 1, 30.
This was the era in which TV news was becoming a show format. So sex and death becomes a primary driver because that was what sold the news.
All were nude, and most had been sexually molested.
That gives me the chills. I don't want, it to happen to me or any of my friends or my mother, anybody,
At that point, the only connection between these cases was the MO. Nude bodies, no trauma, ligature marks where they were, and dumped. But there was no connection between the victims whatsoever. So we had no way of knowing how these victims were selected. It's frustrating.
The victim's body was found in an isolated hillside area of Los Angeles. The victim was in her early 20s with red hair. Her nude body was dumped on the roadside. But at this point, there are no suspects and not many clues to go on.
Lauren Wagner's victim number 8. When her body was found, she had electrical burns. It was an escalation in the violence. This is literally now torture. That's a level of sadism you don't always see in crimes. And that's something that investigators could focus on.
When the Lauren Wagner murder occurred, the investigation led back to her home. Los Angeles Police Department detectives discovered a witness that had actually seen the kidnapping of Miss Wagner as she was arriving home.
One neighbor heard a commotion last night about 10 o'clock. She saw Lauren Wagner out here. Lauren apparently got out of her car and got into a car with at least 2 men in it and drove away.
That sort of solidified in our mind that we were dealing with 2 individuals committing these murders. It sort of took my thought process back to the Miller case, where my impression was that 2 people were involved in how the body was placed and how she was found. As an investigator, you look at that as a break, because if you have two, one's going to be the weak link. It's going to roll on his partner. Other than the fact that there were two suspects, this witness described how Wagner was abducted. It appeared like there were police officers talking to her, and it looked like a police stop.
The press jumped on that.
Officers from the police department's Major Crimes Investigations section are currently going through the active personnel files of police officers in Los Angeles.
I want to make that very, very clear. We don't suspicion any of our police officers, but again, we don't want to disregard anything.
There was a term that was used, it was called blue clues. Those were clues that were pointed at a specific police officer as possibly being a suspect.
It was not unusual to hear about guys pretending to be undercover police officers arresting a prostitute and then pretending they're taking them into the jail, but then say, you know, I hate to do this. And basically they'd work out an arrangement where the girl would give them sex and then they'd let them go. These killers probably utilize that in order to fool the women. So you're afraid?
Yes, all of us are afraid.
I'm like afraid to go outside, and ride my bike, and yeah, I'm afraid of it.
Many women are enrolling in classes for self-defense.
Then I turn my hips again, hitting here.
Other women are purchasing guns. Officials say gun sales to women are going up.
Women were quite traumatized.
It's very frightening.
I mean, you would go into a hardware store and there wouldn't be locks because women had run down to buy all the locks to lock everything.
The Strangler case makes a grim fact vividly clear. From the tree-lined streets of the suburbs all the way to the honky-tonk back alleys of the red light district, there's no way people can totally protect themselves from a madman who apparently chooses his victims at random.
How has the Hillside Strangler affected your business and the way you do business?
Dropped it 100%.
He is right in this area, almost on this exact corner,
I want to die.
I was coming home one night, and a male and a female cop stopped me and said, "You look like you're in a gang." The lady just started frisking me, and she found a pearl-handled switchblade. "If you're not in a gang, why do you have a knife?" I just said, "The Hillside Strangler."
Hillside Strangler. 1, 2. No rhyme or reason, just open season. Cops can't find me.
We don't have any indication what type of suspect we're dealing with, or a description of a suspect, or any physical evidence that would indicate anything to us in regards to a suspect.
Hillside Strangler.
Shit, just catch him.
At that point, we have these 6 bodies, and we have no suspects whatsoever. It's mind-boggling, it's frustrating, but we try to concentrate on our case and develop as much information on it and still try to learn what was being developed on these other cases from LAPD and from Glendale. So it makes it much more difficult.
Los Angeles, just by its very nature, is serial killer friendly. You're almost always close to a freeway. You can cross jurisdictions, multiple jurisdictions, in 15 or 20 minutes. And in the 70s, you have an amazingly mind-boggling patchwork quilt of law enforcement all over Los Angeles. That's perfect for someone who wants to commit a crime. You could kill someone on the west side and dump them on the east side. There might not be any crosstalk. They have no idea.
The Los Angeles police don't know if they're looking for one killer or for several, but Frank Bergholzer reports a special task force has been formed to find out.
Right from the get-go, we had about 24 people following up on what leads we were getting and trying to see where it would lead us.
The police had a really tough time. They were working 20-hour days and they just could not find the offenders, largely because they had not left any clues. They didn't have much forensically to go on.
We're frustrated because we don't have enough evidence to give us enough to... Nah, I'm going to move. What evidence we...
Despite hours of work by detectives from the Sheriff's Department, Glendale Police, and Los Angeles Police, the 52-man task force has not been able to crack the Strangler case.
The mayor of LA was putting pressure on the police. The governor was putting pressure on the police. You know, as long as there were killings going on, it caused the pressure to build even more.
Even the head of the task force trying to catch the killer was forced to admit the Hillside Strangler has a knack for the deadly game he's playing. Officers say their efforts so far have produced very little.
From the time the task force started and enlarged itself to over 100, there was no significant progress whatsoever as far as a viable suspect.
It had been just over 2 weeks since the last body was found. The longest period the Strangler had gone between killings. Police were hopeful that publicity might have scared him off, but apparently not.
Victim number 9 was Kimberly Martin, and she's 17.
As with the other victims, there was no attempt to hide the body. It seemed to be a brutal, open display of the Strangler's work.
Not only are there photographs of her at ground level, there are aerial photographs of her in full view. If you stood on the hill and faced the direction her body was facing, you could see City Hall. It was almost like the perpetrator wanted to just give a giant middle finger to all of Los Angeles.
They were playing to the media on this one. You got to deal with it. And that's a tough thing to do.
When Kimberly Martin got killed and it was front page news, I think the public thought that the police were not doing their job. Let's face it, there was just a lot of fumbling all the way around because I knew what happened. And the night Kimberly was killed, a prostitute from an escort service called me. She said, you know, I've sent out a girl and I can't find her. And so I said to her, okay, do you have the phone number he called from? She said, yeah. She said, it's a payphone. He claimed it was his home phone number, which was a lie. And so I called the police and I said, there's a prostitute who's been sent out to meet a man. Here's the address where she was sent. We believe there's foul play.
When she failed to telephone the service that she had arrived, They became suspicious and called an organization known as California Association for Trollops.
I kept calling LAPD, and they kept referring me to different office, to the Strangulation Task Force, that they couldn't do anything.
They said, she's just a whore. She just changed trick pads on you. We're not sending a police car there.
Potentially could have checked that phone booth right then and there and to check the people where the phone call was made to see if anyone had seen this man.
If they would have gone when I called, Kimberly Martin would have been alive.
Kimberly and I were friends. Our relationship was like I was an older sister to her. We did everything together. I met her when she was 16. I heard on the radio that another body was found and it had a cross with 4 dots on her arm, and that's her tattoo. So I started screaming. It was shocking to me. My whole life became the news then.
Well, these murders, it's awful. And something like this has a fallout. They have to try to solve it.
Police say they don't know whether they're looking for one killer or many killers, and they have no suspects.
There was a time there when, due to the pressure and attention in the community, that our brass, they wanted to hang this thing on somebody and make it go away. And the press had their own pet suspect.
Police have questioned a man with long hair and a mustache who walked with a limp. He is no longer a suspect.
Friends of Ned York say the actor is a soft-spoken religious man. They were stunned when he called the Los Angeles police, claiming he was the Hillside Strangler. York was unintelligible when he was questioned, but police booked him on suspicion. Now they say his babbling may have been caused by drugs, and they do not believe he has committed the crimes. They will likely let the bit part actor go this weekend.
After Martin was the longest period of time between murders. We went through December, January. You start wondering what's happened. Where are the killers at? We were waiting for other bodies to start showing up.
County Fire Department helicopter that first spotted the victim's car.
It was in an isolated spot, 3 miles north of Los Angeles in the Angeles National Forest. The victim was found in the trunk of her new car, 50 feet down a steep hillside.
We moved the body, we take a closer look. Then we saw the ligature marks real clear.
There are striking similarities between the other victims and this victim. We are seeing that she is a Strangler victim, yes.
She was Cindy Hudspeth, pushed over a cliff. So you can see that they escalated, and now it's this dramatic display.
In Los Angeles, another young woman strangled in the hills, a 20-year-old bank clerk who taught Bible classes and wanted to be an actress.
Funeral services were held today. It was somber and emotional. 2 of those attending the services fainted and had to be brought outside.
Miss Husbeck lived with a roommate in this middle-class section of Glendale, California.
The 800 block of Garfield Avenue in Glendale is a quiet street. Michelle Exner, who first reported Cindy missing Thursday night, was accompanied by 2 deputies to the $160 a month apartment they shared. A 19-year-old neighbor, Bob Young, dated Cindy occasionally and attended class with her at Glendale College.
She was pretty conservative. She frequented discos quite a bit. She was an excellent dancer.
When I got home from work, my roommate had the TV on with the news, and that's how I found out. We were pretty close, and she was like my little sister. We would go dancing, different clubs to partake in dance contests, and she really wanted to become a good dancer and even professional. We had fun together. I was devastated, you know. It's like, why? She had goals and she worked hard to get what she wanted. She ended up buying a Datsun B210, and it was a brand new car, and she was so proud of that. She felt like she had accomplished one of her dreams, you know, being able to own a brand new car. She didn't deserve for this to happen to her. When it comes that close to home, you realize, guess what? It happens to all kinds of people. Not because they did anything, because they were women. They were like pieces of meat to them. And it didn't matter how old or what they were.
All 10 victims of these murders were different. But when you look at it superficially in the news, what they talk about is who she was, where she was. That's the kind of judgment that was made a lot of times. Maybe she was in a place where she shouldn't have been. Didn't she know better? It so bothers me, the characterizations of the victims. It's a cruel thing to do to sell a newspaper.
The portrait of Cindy Lee Hudspeth that emerges is one of being a nice girl. Her lifestyle doesn't bear much resemblance to the other murdered girls.
The research of journalists was, what did these women do to cause them to have this happen? This doesn't say violence against women is ubiquitous in almost every form of media. This says individual women have been victimized through some fault of their own.
And the media in LA in particular had chosen to depict all these murders without any consciousness about how it would affect women.
When Cindy's nude body was found yesterday,
the nude body was almost in the backyard. Some residents
dumped on the roadside.
We were pretty angry.
The rage of all women. I am here for women fighting back.
Mourning in rage as we recognize our own collective strength through action. For all of the women here now, for all of the women who will see this, we are here today in memory of the 10 women who were recently slain in Los Angeles.
Even callous workers in downtown Los Angeles had never seen anything like this, which was exactly the effect these women were trying to create.
We were critiquing the media coverage of the Hillside Strangler.
A memorial mixed with Greek theater, women expressing their personal grief and anger over the recent strangulation murders in the area. But they pointed out that the killings were just part of what they called an ongoing condition of violence against women.
We are here in memory of all women who have been and are being battered, raped, and killed throughout this country.
And I think for us, really sharing this kind of grief as well as this rage for what women were going through and what we were going through in LA was critically important.
After Hudspeth, nothing was occurring. No more victims. Our leads were petering out. You don't want to wish for one more, but give us one more chance type of thing, you know. When's the next one going to happen? But then it stopped.
And without having caught a killer, everyone is just relieved but still uneasy because you just don't know what happened.
The big thing is why. They were so active, and all of a sudden now there's nothing.
The killers had done a good job. They did not leave their fingerprints, and DNA analysis was not yet a thing. The case really went cold.
In January 1979, the Hillside Strangler Task Force was gutted to a shadow of itself. It was whittled down to just a dozen officers.
We went back into the rotation, you know, working other cases. It's never an ideal situation. You know, you think, God, you can't let a string of 10 murders just die a natural death.
January 1979, I got a call at home. 2 young women were murdered in Bellingham, Washington. It was a double murder. They were strangulation murders. And they've got a guy in custody up there with a California driver's license. So they asked me to do a background check. Went into the system and I started running him. Kenneth Alicio Bianchi.
The investigator came to this machine, entered Kenneth Bianchi's name and his birth date, received this teletype from Department of Motor Vehicles, says Kenneth Alicio Bianchi, 809 East Garfield, Apartment D. Christina Weckler, one of the victims, lived in Apartment C or E right next door at 809 East Garfield. Also, Cindy Hudspeth, our last victim, lived across the street at 800 East Garfield.
Not only had he lived in the same street as 2 victims, he lived in the same apartment block.
So I went downtown, pulled the suspect printouts, looked down the line. Bianchi, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. He's in there 5 times.
There was no doubt that the Hillside Strangler Squad should have taken Ken Bianchi seriously as a suspect. And they followed up. They were on the next flight up there to Bellingham to find out what they could about this suspect.
That was a rush. We've got a good suspect here. And it also explained why a year had gone by without any other murder in Los Angeles County, because he'd moved to Bellingham. We're off and running now on this case.
He was arrested on January 12, and his first court appearance was January 26. His bail was set at a huge figure of $150,000, which Bianchi couldn't raise. He was locked away and was kept in solitary confinement.
News spread fast, and the interest in him was intense.
Bianchi lived in the same apartment as one victim, across the street from another. A third woman was believed killed in a Hollywood apartment where he stayed, and he worked at a real estate title firm with a fourth victim's sister.
He looked like the kind of guy you'd bump into at the local disco.
If I had been at a nightclub and that man asked me to dance with him, I would have. And that's scary.
He wasn't a drooling monster. He was an average to a little bit better than average looking guy. So, well, how could someone like that commit these crimes in the first place?
To accept this free call, press 1. To refuse this free call, press 2.
I am innocent. Whoever committed these crimes is still out there.
My friends abused me. People misused me. Thought I was no good. Thought I was a hood. Now they don't realize I stalked the hillsides. I found my victims. Nowhere to pick them. Hillside Strangler. Once I got queasy. Now it's so easy. No rhyme or reason. Just open season. Cops can't find me. They're far behind me. And when I strike things, is anyone's guess I'm a hillside strangler. You never know what the night can bring. Express myself with a simple piece of